This video correlates with Chapter 6, Communication Intervention. This is kind of a comprehensive chapter, and certainly as we try to look at communication intervention, it's difficult to cover everything in one chapter, so we will try as best we can to provide some information. One of the things that encompasses all communication intervention is the concept of scaffolding. And the concept of scaffolding means that depending upon where the client is, depending upon where they are in their treatment progress, a continuum of treatment will need to occur. A continuum of intervention will need to occur. And certainly your levels of scaffolding or your levels of support will change depending upon the student or client and depending upon where the client is on that day. So scaffolding is extremely important to remember that that is going to change, and you as a clinician need to kind of remember that and know that things are going to change. So you're not going to start with one treatment plan and that's going to be it until the end. You're going to have to make some shifts or changes or adaptations to that. Three purposes of communication intervention are certainly we do want to try and eliminate the underlying cause of the disorder if that's possible. But however, if that's not possible, then what we might need to do is to teach some compensatory strategies to the client, to the high school student, to the adult. Whatever it might be, we may need to teach compensatory strategies because not in all cases can we eliminate the underlying cause. And then also, sometimes we can modify the disorder by teaching them particular behaviors or enabling them to become a more effective communicator. What we can do is modify the impact of that disorder that it has on their daily communication skills. So those are some things to remember regarding communication intervention. When we talk about intervention, you do need to have, we talk about goals, we talk about objectives or goals, long-term objectives, short-term objectives, benchmarks, and it gets kind of confusing. So a goal would include three things, and according to the book, they call it the do statement, the condition, and the criteria are the three things that are needed in order to establish a goal. You can also use it as the condition. Given this visual or given a piece of paper, given a picture, the client will, which is the do statement, they will produce the S sound in the initial position. And then there's a criterion, which is a measurement that they will do that 90% of the time, or 3 out of 4 trials, whatever that might be. So a goal always has 3 components, whether you call it the do statement or the behavior. That is what the client is going to do. You also have the condition that identifies the situation. Are there going to be supports? Are they going to do it independently? What kind of situation or condition will it be? And then thirdly, the criterion. That is the measurement. That is how you document your progress. So remember, 3 components always to a goal. Now, certainly, you can have sub things under that, objectives, benchmarks that will help you reach that goal. But those 3 things are important for writing goals, and it's very important that you follow those when you write your goals in your projects for this course. We also talk in intervention about a continuum of naturalness, and this is kind of sometimes a difficult concept to understand, but there is a degree of naturalness. First of all, we start with the intervention activity itself. Many times that can be isolated. So that's very specific. It's one-on-one, no other people. It's you and your client, and you're providing that intervention. Then you also have to take into consideration the physical context of which that is happening. Are you in a separate room? Are you in the home? Are you in the school? Are you in a rehab facility? In terms of that. And then also you need to look at the individuals with whom that client will interact during the intervention. Is it just you? Is it going to be you and a family member? Is it going to be you and other students in the class or other students in the small group? All those things are things that you want to look at when you look at the continuum of naturalness. And when you look at it, when you start at one end, it's very clinician directed. You are in control. You are determining what that might happen, what might be happening, what we're going to do, all the way over to maybe what we call generalization in terms of articulation, where they are in the classroom responsible for their own production of that sound. The same thing can happen in an adult situation. So a continuum of naturalists may occur where you are working with that client in the rehab center and you are working one-on-one. Eventually, that continuum of care will shift when that client goes home and will be communicating with his family members, with his neighbors, with his other social partners, and that is a demonstration of the continuum of naturalness. So when we work one-on-one in a very isolated, very clinic type setting, that is on the extreme end of naturalness, away from naturalness. And then we are going to move that client over to, as far as we can, to a naturalness in which you and I would interact, in that we are out and about and we are talking to different people in different places in lots of different situations. So that's the continuum of naturalness within communication intervention. I said before you would hear this multiple times, and we're back at it again on data collection. But again, I want to stress that tracking a client's progress will benefit you as a clinician, and it will benefit the client. It permits the clinician to track where the client is going from one session to another. It provides documentation on the efficacy of your treatment, of your intervention, of your strategy to see if it is working, and it maximizes your effectiveness as a clinician. So it's extremely important that data collection is a huge piece of communication intervention. Many times we are very focused on the planning, we are very focused on the session, and we don't take a lot of time to document what we've done during the session. And also, we didn't even talk about the book, I don't think really led to this, but reflecting on what went well, what didn't go well, what can we change, what should we change. And as you get into your practicum, that self-assessment reflection will be a huge part of that. And not just of your practicum, but also as you are a clinician and you see clients on a regular basis, you will need to do that self-assessment, self-evaluation to see how the session went, what worked, what didn't, what can I change, those types of things. And that will help you in your communication intervention.